Hi everyone, Robert Peak here, the Spontaneous Dungeon Master. I've been away for a little while. We adopted a new rescue dog, and it's taken some time and some energy to get her settled into the family. She's doing great. We love her to bits, so that's really good news, and I'm back creating these videos. Other good news, really excited to announce that as of just now, the Spontaneous Dungeon Master's Companion, this little book that I made first for myself and then released out to the world to see who might be interested, has surpassed over 1,000 downloads now on DM's Guild. So, woohoo, yay! It really encourages me. So, those of you that are, telling your friends about this and sharing the good work, thank you. Please continue to do so. Keep circulating the tapes, as they say, because it really inspires me to want to do more. And one of the things that I've immediately started thinking more about is there something else I can contribute to the community around this? And of course, the immediate thought was this noun-based preparation. And in particular, there's something to me that's really beautiful about the one-page one-shot, the one-shot adventure that you can communicate on a single page, that you can run for a great fun evening session, you can slot into a campaign for variety, or that you can string together to make a campaign in and of itself. To me, that really is a great encapsulation of the kind of preparation you want and can do to then take a spontaneous approach to the rest of your game and just have a lot of fun. So I've been thinking a lot about this, and about, in particular, if you haven't seen the noun-based preparation video, do go ahead and check that out. Thinking in particular about how formatting a one-pager so that someone else could consume this, could take this, could play this, involves some slight tweaks to the kind of noun-based approach. So, I mean, all of my adventures are one-page approaches, right? And I list out what exists and why would the players be interested in it, dangers and rewards, clues and secrets, where do you start, a fun, fast start to this thing, and what's the structure? Is it a 5-room dungeon? Is it a 3-act structure? What's the structure? So all of my prep fits on a page, takes me no more than, generally half an hour. But when you're doing that to try and create an adventure that someone else could run, there's a little more to it. So you'll see in the description there's a link to a template I've come up with that basically is the process that I've uncovered that works best for me when creating one-page one-shots. There's a flow. It's basically a kind of a flow diagram, but the boxes are there for you to fill in. So I'm going to go through that, and then I'm going to show you a sneak peek of a little pet project I've started, which is to actually take a bunch of these, format them in a really nice, pretty format, and potentially release that out at some point. I've given myself the ambitious challenge to do 100 one-page one-shots. Can I do that? Can I come up with 100 not only good ideas, but the whole structure and all the basic bones you would need to run a cool adventure across a lot of different tiers, across a lot of different settings, across a lot of different types of approaches of different nouns. So that's my little ambitious project itself. But you got to start somewhere. So here's number one. Number one, an adventure called Justice Comes to Ampersand. But I didn't come up with that title first. I came up with a lot of other stuff first, and the title actually came last. So let's dig into this. Go ahead and grab your own copy of the one-page one-shot template if you like. Download that, print out a blank one. You can then later scribble on that to create your own adventure. And we'll go through how I did this to create the very first adventure of what could be 101 one-page one-shots coming soon, or maybe not so soon, to DM's Guild. So the noun-based one-shot template, obviously we start with a noun, right? So what's cool that exists? In this case, I went, how about an assassin with a grudge? An assassin with a grudge. Right? They're not just hired, they're doing this for another reason. Let's give her a name, Ravina. Ravina, an assassin with a grudge. Great, we're off to a start. Now, for a lot of adventures, the next thing you want to think about is where actually this is going to happen. Because the setting is, to me, one of the big determinants of the flavor of the overall adventure, right? Something that's set in a ghostly port town has a very different feel than on top of a icy mountain peak. So I like to think about, where is this? So let's put it in Amphale. A lot of my players are in Waterdeep, so it's a short journey. It's an easy jog outside of town. What's going on here? Well, we know there's this kind of class war between the farmers and the nobles. So they're really recalcitrant farmers. The patron, I want him to be really sweaty and nervous, and he knows that someone's out to get him. I think that'll be kind of fun. And let's say there's the legend of a vengeful spirit. Just kind of made that up, right, to make it a little bit creepy. But next thing I know, that became an important part of the plot, so or of the structure, that evolves into what the characters can interact with. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Number three, the next thing that needs to flow out in addition to the setting is the mission. Now, in kind of normal noun-based prep in a campaign style mode or whatever, I don't set out the mission as explicitly as this. I mostly go for why might you want to be interested? Why might they want to engage with this? The one-page one-shot, you want to hit the ground running. You want to know, and they want to know, what's the goal here? What's the mission of this? Now, you're not going to just say, welcome to the game, here's your mission, here's your little tokens and your dice, and play it like a board game. But you do want to understand really clearly what the mission is, so that guides everything else. In this case, I said, okay, they want to defend this patron. They want to defend their patron against this assassin that's trying to get them. On from here, the rewards and the perils, right? The good stuff and the dangers that they're going to face. Well, he's offering an all-expense paid trip to Amphail. If they don't like that, is that not enough? You might give them some reward money for defending them. Unmasking the assassin is going to be an incentive probably in itself, Scooby-Doo style incentive there. The assassin and the vengeful spirit are going to be my main dangers. And the unfriendly farmers are potentially going to be a bit of a challenge or an obstacle as to them as well, in terms of finding out who's who and what's going on. Finally, after that, now let's look at what are my secrets and twists. What are the things? And in this case, the twist I decided was that the good guy is the bad guy and vice versa, or that the assassin we can be more sympathetic to than we originally thought. The patron isn't as good guy as we thought they were. So the assassin is posing as a barmaid. The patron got the assassin's sister pregnant and just kind of left her, so that's her motivation. But beyond that, the assassin is possessed by this vengeful spirit. Okay, well, that vengeful spirit, that's interesting. Let's have her be possessed by this spirit. That's why she's really out to kill rather than just harm. So with all of that, the setting, the rewards and perils, the secrets and twists, and the mission, all of that then feeds into a really critical component that you want to consider. Now, this maybe kind of happens organically in just a quick noun-based prep session, but you really want to spell this out to help yourself, and for me to help myself, I'm going to do 100 of these, in understanding the crunch and the knit and grit of what is going to make this adventure up, what the components are, and that's the game elements. So I've listed out what are here 9 major game elements that I consider to be the major elements or components of at least of a one-shot session that you can drop in, that you can put into different places and parts of the structure as options, as things that might happen. Not necessarily they will happen, but they might happen. They might show up. In this case, I decided there could be some chase scenes, right? Because they could be chasing after the assassin or vice versa. Definitely could be some combat if they confront the assassin and or the vengeful spirit. Definitely a lot of this is about investigation. Some monsters, the vengeful spirit is a monster. And it's going to involve some social skills or lack thereof. They're going to be interacting with these farmers, right, who are not eager to necessarily help out a bunch of foreigners from their highfalutin ways. So that's a whole other thing. Then finally, you're ready to figure out what is the structure of this thing. So the 5-room dungeon is a real classic one if the setting is a major focus. In this case, I decided this is going to be just a 3-act structure. So we're going to have a loose 3-act structure about how this is going to flow. There's a couple of other structures that I'm playing with. One is the countdown timer. I may talk a bit about that in another video, about how you sort of warn the players and then weaken them and then worsen the situation, and then the woe of actually this thing comes to pass, and then finally the way out, the potential salvation. So there's a kind of 5-act structure in a way, or just 5 beats essentially that can happen as the game goes along to create a sense of tension. There's also the 1-act 3 rooms, and then the kind of 3-room 1-act. So 1-act 3 rooms is more of a some action, some more role-playing focused social elements, and then something to explore. The 3-room 1-act is a classic one for an escape, right? Escape, prison break, or whatever. You get out, and then the final act is not actually in the prison, but is the denouement there. So this structure is 3 acts. What's the hook? I like to use flashbacks a lot. I like to start with, hey, here you are, you're in the tavern, here's what's going on. Because flashback a few days later, your patron was saying, oh my gosh, guys, I got this letter, etc. What it does is it establishes, here's where we're beginning, right? We've decided. Now, in a way, you tell me how we got here. You tell me why your characters are interested, why they want to go on the mission. Again, it avoids that whole, we're sitting around in a tavern and you throw them a cloaked, shady hooded figure and try to entice them along. And they're like, nah, I think I'll just sit here and drink for a bit, right? It gets them engaged with, I'm going to explain why I'm here. And then that gives them really strong motivation for wanting to be there and wanting to participate. So the flashback is to the patron pleading with the party. The starting is starting in that tavern with that kind of tense situation between the farmers and the patron. And then the 3 acts, much high DC social skill investigation stuff around town is probably going to happen. They're probably going to be interacting and talking, whatever. Act 2, the assassination attempt. It's coming from within, right? It's the barmaid who is going to make an appearance and probably be very jolly and charming, ends up hiding under his bed or whatever, and the attempt comes from within. Then who knows? Could be manhunt, could be combat right there, could be they discover and foil the plot. Fine, it doesn't have to go off in Act 2. Some more social skills and investigation, a chase around town, who knows what, but the kind of culmination in Act 3. So that's the rough notes. I could run the adventure off these notes. That would be totally fine and fun. But for someone else to be able to run this adventure, and I'd love it if you guys would run Justice Comes Down Fail. Let me know how it went. If you run that on an evening, if you run that as a one-shot, please do leave comments. I'm looking for feedback on all of this. So you can see the formatted, structured, pretty version, right, where we talk about you give the title and the subtitle is basically the noun. Ravina is an assassin with a grudge, right? The backstory, just is that little bit of backstory that we talked about. For interest, I lay out the hook, the rewards, and the perils right away. Those 3 things are kind of the general interest of the story, why someone would want to participate. Then our secrets that we talked about, the overarching twist, and some more details about the Ghost of Ampale and so forth. The setting, and then a couple of suggested maps. So why not include maps? Well, there's a gajillion amazing maps on the internet. We're living in the future. We're living in really the golden age, guys. You go in and you Google, 5e tavern map. 4 billion entries show up. And really all you're doing is viewing those. You're not distributing them, even your players or anything else. You're literally just viewing them like you would on the internet. So I'm not a lawyer, but as far as I know, just for totally personal use, being able to take those or transcribe some version of those onto graph paper so that you have a nice looking little map to go to for tactical combat in theater of the mind or whatever is a great thing. Or go grab yourself a pack of maps. There's, the Adventure Atlas maps. There's all kinds of wonderful maps coming out pretty cheap. You can throw onto Roll20 or Fantasy Grounds if that's what you're into, or just keep off to the side. So I'm not including maps in these. It takes up space in the one page because I just think there's so many great ones. Grab your own map, have a map pack handy, and use that if you need to make it realistic in terms of the spatial organization of the adventure. So then the start, I've actually gone with some box text, old school style. You can read this out. The floor of the dimly lit cavern is covered in straw, and through it, the lamplight, the craggy faces of local farmers stare up at you from their regular booths. More than anything, they're grimacing at the foppously dressed nobleman beside you, delicately sipping the froth from his ale, and visibly sweating. We're in a scene. It has begun. The game is afoot, right? Flashback, by the way, here's what happened. You guys took this on because he got this death threat. He thinks Ampale's the great place to hide from all of this because he thinks it's going to happen in Waterdeep. Little did he know, the assassin is within. So Act 1, again, we talked about what that'll be. Act 2 could go any which way, but Act 3, at some point, there's going to be some kind of confrontation. And then the fun part is, if Ravina gets reduced to half hit points or something else happens and triggers that, the spirit of Ampale is going to come out of her, be exorcised, and they're going to realize kind of what's really been going on here. They may be sympathetic to Ravina. They may reject their patron at that point for being a jerk. They may whatever. We've given them a moral quandary. So there's a lot in here, from moral quandaries to social investigation to potentially a bit of combat to whatever. I think it's going to be a really fun starting adventure. I've labeled it as what I call Tier 1, which is sort of levels 1 to 4, 1 to 5 about that. And you can see up at the top, I've spelled out the mission explicitly, defend the patron, but I haven't really said your mission is to defend the patron. It's much more organic than that. The setting is a settlement, in this case, a town, Ampale. And the focus of all this is a dangerous person. So that's how I got started. I created these foci, these focuses, where I said, let's say there's a person, there's a creature, there's a location, there's a plot afoot, there's a whatever. And let's do ones that are dangerous or mysterious or meaningful to the PCs personally. And let's just use that as part of the brainstorming of the different types of nouns. So that whole matrix, combined with the 4 different tiers, gives me 100 different prompts that I'm going to be playing with in this style. But you have the first one. You have access to the very first one. I'd love it if some people would just try this out, play it, see what you think. Give me comments. More importantly, I'd love it if you take the noun-based one-shot template, that blank template, use it to scribble out your own adventures. Have fun. Let me know how that all goes as well. I love making these kind of tools. I love making adventures, but more than anything, I love thinking about how to make adventures, how to make the preparation really fun, easy, and concise and meaningful so that you can minimize prep, maximize the richness of your time at the table. And that's what the beauty of the one-page one-shot and how to craft it is all about. Hope that's been useful. Hope you find that fun. Do grab the PDFs in the link below, and hope to see you soon.